A beautiful girl with ruby eyes was shown who made the boy in front of her fall in love at first sight. A few hours ago, when the students were discussing the new student at the front, Shiramura Sensei encouraged the new student to come in. When the new student started to enter the class, Shiramura Sensei cried while introducing the new student because he had almost a bald head. His name was Masatora Akatsu. The whole class was shocked to see Akatsu. The reason he didn't have hair was because he used his father's hair remover by mistake. The introductions became very awkward for each other. However, deep down in Akatsu's heart, it turned out that this was all a lie. He thought that they were all lowly creatures. But Shiramura Sensei wanted to know because there was something in his hair. When Shiramura Sensei pulled it, it turned out it was just a wig. So Akatsu's true face was revealed. Shiramura Sensei was angry because he had been tricked by this new student. Akatsu immediately tore his hair and showed that this was just a lie. Long story short, after being given a lesson, Akatsu was told to sit in his seat. He would be careful because he didn't want his true identity to be revealed. However, when Akatsu headed to his seat, he accidentally saw a beautiful blonde woman. At first sight, Akatsu immediately fell in love. Plus, the woman gave him a sweet smile which made Akatsu immediately embarrassed. All day, Akatsu thought about a very cute, innocent-looking girl. If she could be his girlfriend, maybe Akatsu would feel happy every day. Then suddenly, a boy confessed his feelings for the girl. But unfortunately, the boy was immediately rejected. Then the boy's friend, Yuri Tanagawa, came over to them. It was revealed that the woman was Lily Amain and the man who confessed to Amain was Kensuke Hirota. Kensuke often shot beautiful women he met even though he was immediately rejected. Recently, Kensuke had been targeting Amain. Akatsu, who saw the two of them together, actually got along and decided to go out of class together. When they chatted in the hallway, they were shocked. During introductions this morning, Akatsu asked them about Amain. It was revealed that Amain was a transfer student and she was a half-blood. Apart from that, Amain was very liked in class because she was cute, beautiful, and also innocent. Moreover, she was a really good girl like an angel. However, Kensuke warned Akatsu that if he wanted to chase her, then he had to prepare himself because he had already been rejected 5 times. But still, Kensuke would try again. But Yuya held him back. Akatsu thought that he would put Amain on his hit list. However, when Akatsu came home from school, he accidentally met Amain on the street. Amain immediately greeted Akatsu. However, Akatsu was confused as to why Amain came out of a dark and quiet alley by herself. Amain reasoned that she had gotten lost. This was Akatsu's chance to ask her to go home together. But Akatsu was confused about how to ask Amain to go home together. Because he was nervous, Akatsu introduced himself again instead. Amain introduced herself too and invited him to be friends. Akatsu looked at Amain's torn sleeve, but Amain diverted the conversation by inviting him to drink together. Akatsu immediately accepted the invitation while feeling embarrassed. It turned out they were both abandoned by their parents. During the trip, Amain seemed to want to come by Akatsu's house. However, when Amain crossed the road, suddenly there was a truck speeding by. Akatsu immediately saved her. Suddenly, he turned into a demonic figure who protected Amain. Finally, Amain saw Akatsu's true figure. In order not to become the center of attention, Amain immediately told him to move. Arriving at a quiet place, Amain gave Akatsu a handkerchief and also thanked him for saving her. However, Amain wanted to know about the real Akatsu. Even though Akatsu ended up being hit by a truck, he still managed to survive. Akatsu could only surrender because his true identity was revealed. But strangely, Amain was not that afraid of him. So Akatsu was honest that he was a demon. For some reason, Akatsu came to the human world because in the demon world, there was chaos. There was a fight between the demons and the angels. Therefore, Akatsu was assigned to find someone in the human world so he could motivate them to fight this chaos. Then Akatsu invited Amain to join him. But Amain explained that Akatsu was indeed a demon, so why did Akatsu save her? Amain stated that she was afraid of going to the demon world because if she went there, everyone would definitely be afraid and hate her. Akatsu was confused. Amain revealed that she was an angel sent to the human world. Suddenly, Amain threw a chain at Akatsu and managed to chain him up. Amain laughed looking at Akatsu. Amain was one of the strongest angels from heaven. Akatsu could not remove these chains until he died. The reason why Amain's sleeves were torn was because she had fought with a demon in the narrow alley. Then she accidentally met Akatsu. However, Akatsu did not give up. With all his might, Akatsu would avenge his colleague who had been humiliated. After trying so hard, Akatsu managed to escape from the chain. A battle broke out between the two of them. However, Akatsu was caught again. He would be exterminated by Amain using a giant axe. Akatsu could only surrender to face the end of his life. But suddenly, Amain blew into his face. Amain changed her mind and she would not eradicate him. But in exchange, she would give him a job and would keep an eye on him. As a contract, Akatsu would be given a special necklace, so he wouldn't run away because Amain wanted Akatsu to always be by her side. Amain's goal was so that she could achieve the target. If it was fulfilled, and as a gift, she would release Akatsu. But Akatsu refused. Amain threatened him again that she would share his photos on social media. Akatsu couldn't argue anymore. Before she released Akatsu had to wear the necklace that Amain had just made. This had become Akatsu's fate. He had to go to the human world to achieve his mission. But it was cancelled by an angel who upgraded her contract. Then Amain ordered Akatsu to help hunt down the demons. But Akatsu refused because he didn't want to kill his own people. The demon also had a social life. Akatsu intended to take off the necklace. However, when the necklace tried to be released, its grip became stronger. Apart from that, the use of the necklace was to find out Akatsu's location. Moreover, Amain could control it remotely, so even if Akatsu did not want to help her, Amain would use that power to force him. Akatsu immediately turned into an obedient person to Amain. But it was actually different from the original because his body was controlled by magic. Then, Akatsu was asked to buy drinks. When he arrived, Akatsu was blasted by Amain for putting the drink inside his clothes. Because Amain was shy, Amain offered what Akatsu wanted. But because Akatsu was still under magic, Akatsu asked Amain to spank his butt. Akatsu's true soul cried about this. However, when Amain was about to spank Akatsu's butt, Amain hesitated. She was afraid of feeling guilty. But because this was Akatsu's own wish, she would do it. When Amain was about to do so, suddenly the law enforcement police appeared. As a result, they immediately ran away. After they escaped, Amain stated that Akatsu must be willing to work with her, otherwise the punishment would be crueler than this. However, the reason Amain did not eradicate him was because she had another reason that she could not explain to Akatsu. That was why Amain didn't let Akatsu die, so that Akatsu would accept all her requests. He would report all the demons around him. But if he failed, he already knew the consequences. So from now on, Akatsu officially became her servant. But Amain would reward him by transforming him. But Akatsu was not satisfied. So Amain would give him a hug every 10 jobs Akatsu completed. It turned out that the police managed to find them again. So they ran away again. Finally, Akatsu arrived at his house. However, when he checked, it turned out that the necklace was missing. However, Amain told him that the necklace had turned into a tattoo. Because of the tattoo on his neck, he was definitely prohibited from bathing in the swimming pool. On the other hand, Amain was very happy because she found a special demon and she could control it. Surely in heaven, she would be praised. Flashback to when Akatsu was told to go to the human world because the demon world needed a leader. Akatsu was assigned to find the leader of the human world. Akatsu was shown as an angel who persecuted the demons in the human world. The photo was uploaded on the angel's website. Therefore, those in the demon world did not accept it because their colleagues were humiliated. Akatsu was the current hope of the demon world. Then the woman gave him the wig that was at the beginning of the scene, intending to make Akatsu considered like an ordinary person and could get sympathy and blend in with humans. However, all of his tasks failed miserably, so Akatsu could only daydream about the end of his life. While watching TV, Akatsu saw people dating and then getting married. The next day, Akatsu immediately became a cool and cold person. Even Yuya and Kensuke were amazed because Akatsu changed completely overnight. Soon Amain came and they both also thought Amain changed overnight. Akatsu felt it was time to melt Amain's heart like in the TV show yesterday. That was why last night Akatsu planned to change herself so that Amain would fall in love with him. However, when Akatsu greeted Amain, he was the one who felt embarrassed. It turned out that Amain also saw the same show yesterday, so Amain also prepared herself so that Akatsu would fall in love with her. Amain was truly mesmerized by Akatsu's current appearance. As a result, they both felt embarrassed. They realized that they had the same idea, so a strange battle occurred. They made each other's heads in a way that was likened to an MMA fight. This time, Amain managed to give Akatsu several blows. Akatsu, who didn't accept it, would respond by picking up the dirt in Amain's hair. As a result, Amain suddenly felt embarrassed. In this match, Akatsu managed to give her several blows of revenge. After the lesson was over, Amain was told to bring the stack of papers. But Amain used this opportunity as a weapon by telling Akatsu to bring it while pulling lightly on his arm. That was a very cute act for boys. Of course, this made Akatsu intoxicated. So of the match, it seemed Amain gave Akatsu a crushing blow. Akatsu revealed his handsomeness by showing the muscles on his arms. Amain was immediately fascinated. Akatsu managed to hit Amain hard with his muscles. Every day they made each other embarrassed. However, Amain planned to end this battle by hugging Akatsu by pretending to stumble. This was like Amain landing a punch right on Akatsu's jaw. So Akatsu could only be embarrassed. However, their fight was stopped by Shiramura-sensei because they dared to do an intimate scene in front of him. While Amain was waiting for Akatsu, two people came to tease her. However, Akatsu came to Amain's rescue with his cool nature. But Akatsu's arrival made Amain angry. Especially Akatsu's sweet talks didn't work on her, because the real goal of them working together was to hunt demons. Akatsu just realized something, that today Amain was wearing very cute clothes. When Akatsu looked at her seriously, Amain became embarrassed. Stupidly, Akatsu even became embarrassed because of Amain's cuteness. Amain got angry and told Akatsu not to make her embarrassed. If he kept doing it later at school, every day she would activate the necklace so that Akatsu would be embarrassed. She would make Akatsu fall in love with Shiramura-sensei. As a result, Akatsu gave up. After that, they continued their demon hunt. However, Akatsu was confused because this was the same as committing an act of betrayal to his own people by helping Amain hunt the demons. It would be very serious if the others found out. Their first task was to look for stray dogs because recently there had been several cases of stray dog attacks. Plus, all the victims were women. It must be the work of the demon. It turned out that Amain had found the location because she had a demon detection application. Akatsu stated that he could only detect demons depending on the opponent. If the opponent was stronger and didn't hide his strength, then he could feel it from afar. Meanwhile, Amain, who heard Akatsu's statement, immediately labeled Akatsu as a burden and that his strength was completely useless. Akatsu then asked why Amain recruited him. Suddenly, Akatsu felt the presence of a demon, but Akatsu still ignored his feelings. After the two of them circled several places, unfortunately, they didn't get a single clue. So that made them stop at a cafe first to rest. Akatsu lectured Amain because she ate so much. Akatsu called Amain the fat one. Amain was angry. However, Akatsu felt the presence of a very frightening demon. Even Amain felt that way. However, when they looked closely, it turned out it was Kensuke. Kensuke felt jealous of Akatsu, who was already dating Amain. He was hitting his head on the glass. So the two of them explained to Kensuke that he had misunderstood. Amain was showing Akatsu around the city. Luckily, Ketsune just believed it. Akatsu realized from earlier that the scary atmosphere was actually Ketsune's jealous gaze. Then Akatsu asked if Ketsune had found them. Ketsune was honest that he was not alone because he was with his childhood friend. Suddenly, the person came and admitted that she was Ketsune's girlfriend. Ketsune denied that they were just childhood friends. The girl's name was Yuka Tanahashi, but when Kensuke introduced Akatsu and Amain to her, she mocked Amain. She said that Amain was like an elementary school student and also short. Suddenly, Amain was angry, but Amain suppressed her redness in order to look cute. Akatsu was nervous, afraid that he would be ridiculed by Yuka too. But Yuka didn't mock him. Amain told Ketsune to accept Yuka as his cute girlfriend. Amain revealed to Yuka that Kensuke had confessed his love to her 4 times in a row. Because of this statement, Yuka was angry with Kensuke. This was all Amain's plan for the two of them to leave, and also took revenge on Yuka, who had mocked her. Then Amain finished their expedition to search for demons. Because she was tired, Amain told Akatsu that when he found out about the demon, he must immediately tell her. After that, Amain immediately left. After that, Amain and Akatsu were seen exterminating demons. But luckily, it was all just a dream. The next day, Amain and Yuka accidentally met each other's eyes. It turned out they were in the same school, but in different classes. Yuka's attitude was different from the previous one. Yuka even apologized for her misunderstanding yesterday that she thought Amain was short. Suddenly, Amain, who heard the word short, became irritated. Yuka invited Amain to be friends. Akatsu, who was still confused, couldn't believe what happened in the morning. Then Yuka said goodbye and returned to her class. Even though they were already friends, Amain still felt very annoyed with Yuka because of her heart-piercing teasing yesterday. While resting on top of the building, Akatsu was daydreaming about his dream this morning. Not long after, Yuya and Kensuke arrived. They saw Akatsu's gloomy face, which was full of burden and looked like he lacked food. They were worried about Akatsu's condition. However, Akatsu couldn't possibly tell the truth, so Akatsu just said that he dreamed of an adult woman who often met him. That was what made him lose sleep. Instead of feeling sorry, they both laughed out loud. They thought Akatsu was in love. Unfortunately, they couldn't help him because they were not love consultants. Even Kensuke himself had never dated. Akatsu asked about Yuka, but Kensuke answered that she was just a childhood friend. Yesterday, he just accompanied her shopping. Yuya stated that Yuka often bothered Kensuke, especially when Kensuke approached a girl. Therefore, the reason Kensuke didn't have a girl was because Yuka kept bothering him. Then Akatsu said, why don't they just date? Moreover, they had known each other since childhood. The scene moved to Amain, who was searching for the demon alone. Akatsu didn't come with her because his stomach hurt. After walking for 2 hours, Amain did not find a single demon. But suddenly Yuka came. Then they talked to each other. After that, the two of them went for a walk looking at clothes. At first, Amain thought that Yuka was fixing her friendship. But when Amain wore the clothes recommended by Yuka, she laughed. Yuka deliberately chose cute clothes for Amain. Therefore, Amain tried to reply by calling Yuka a fat girl because she couldn't wear her clothes. Next, they stopped at the bookstore. As usual, they teased each other. Before they went home, Yuka invited Amain to take a photo together at the photo box. Amain was confused about what a photo box was. Then Yuka showed it to Amain. She also edited their photos. On the other hand, Akatsu was running towards Amain because he saw a message from Amain that was worried about him. At the cafe, Amain smiled to herself because this was the first time she had taken a photo with her friend. But she was confused about where to paste this photo. The reason Yuka took Amain for a walk was to fight her enemy, Kensuk. But because of this, she got to know Amain better and wanted to make her a friend. Apart from that, Yuka didn't want to lose to Amain and winning Kensuk's heart. Suddenly, Amain, who heard this from Yuka, smiled to herself. Suddenly, Akatsu sent her a message. The time coincided with Yuka's permission to go home because she wanted to attend an event. On the other hand, the reason Akatsu followed Amain was because he was worried about her even though Amain was his mortal enemy. Long story short, they finally met. However, Akatsu sensed the presence of the devil, so they immediately headed to that location. Amain and Akatsu managed to find the demon under the bridge. The reason Amain exterminated the demons was because recently there had been many reports of wild dogs attacking girls. Therefore, the demon did not want to give up. He would also scare Amain by showing his true face. The dog demon changed shape into a werewolf with a strange costume. Amain, who saw him, did not feel afraid and immediately attacked him. But suddenly, Akatsu came out of hiding and approached the dog demon. He told the dog demon to be patient because he would be fine. Suddenly, the demon suspected Akatsu of betraying them and collaborating with the angel. But Akatsu explained that he was forced to do this. Without mercy, Amain would immediately eradicate him. However, Akatsu tried to mediate between the two of them because before the battle it was better to have a good talk first. However, Amain and the demon ignored Akatsu's words and immediately fought fiercely. Because Akatsu's words were ignored, he became gloomy. Amain and the demon even teased Akatsu. They said, why would a demon have love, let alone love for an angel? However, Akatsu rose again and showed them both that love was true power. Then they reciprocated feelings for each other between Akatsu and Amain. However, Amain responded to Akatsu's feelings that when she met him, he stressed her out. The dog demon said that Amain was really scary. Increasingly, they reciprocate each other's feelings. Akatsu was mentally affected and cried because his love was unrequited. However, the dog demon felt that Akatsu was sacrificing himself to help him so he wouldn't fight the angel. The dog demon was moved and cried. That was why the dog demon ended the dispute between the two of them. He thanked Akatsu for doing this for him. After that incident, the dog demon confessed his sins to Amain. Therefore, Amain would immediately purify it. The reason the dog demon went to this world was apparently he wanted to find his mother, but unfortunately, he couldn't find her. So when he was lonely and didn't have any friends, he started to be attracted to tight pants or leggings, so he often attacked people who wore leggings. Even though Amain didn't understand what he said, she would still purify his soul and the demon would turn into a very cute little dog. Then Amain took a photo and uploaded it to social media so that someone would want to adopt the dog. Long story short, someone finally took it, a girl who owned a dog orphanage. It was revealed that Amain did not actually eradicate the demon but only sealed its demonic power. Amain stated that she had never killed a demon even though other angels might differ, but she still had compassion. She destroyed some of the surrounding infrastructure because it was just a bluff. Plus, the attack didn't do any damage at all. Her attack only blocked the demon's power. Suddenly, Akatsu was confused. This was the first time she met Amain, who humiliated one of her people. However, the predictions were different. Amain showed him the dog that ruined her sweater at that time. The punishment given by Amain was to draw eyebrows on the dog's face, which made it cuter. Therefore, Amain threatened Akatsu not to mess with her, otherwise she would suffer the same fate as the dog. As a result, Akatsu was automatically surprised by Amain's character. On the one hand, Amain was a girl who was so cute, funny, and liked helping people. But on the other hand, Amain had a brutal nature and often beat Akatsu. Then Amain invited Akatsu to look for food. Amain would treat Akatsu because he had helped her. Akatsu was honest. All this time he thought angels were evil. But apparently, Amain was different. However, because of this statement, Amain became embarrassed. This was the first time she had been called a good person by a demon. The scene shifted to Amain teasing Akatsu on the bed. It turned out Akatsu was dreaming. He fell asleep in class and Shiramura-sensei woke him up from his sweet dream. Since that incident, Akatsu often dreamt of Amain and denied that he was in love with Amain. But his heart couldn't lie. When Akatsu was glancing at Amain, Akatsu actually embarrassed himself. That evening, Akatsu suddenly had someone visit who was none other than his supervisor. Supervisor Liz's purpose in coming to this world was because she would give something to Akatsu. However, the object was not the one in the suitcase she was carrying, but the object she was using now. This item was specifically for women. Meanwhile, Akatsu would be delivered by courier in a few days. Then Supervisor Liz asked how the assignment was progressing. Akatsu couldn't possibly be telling the truth. Plus, he was the only person trusted to take on this task. That was why Akatsu lied that he hadn't found the leader. Akatsu thought of the unpredictable Amain and often laughed to herself. Supervisor Liz was quite concerned about him. Suddenly, she opened her alma mater and was going to sleep there. It turned out she did that to save on organizational expenses, which were currently running low. Supervisor Liz had also brought overnight equipment. However, Akatsu instead imagined an illicit relationship between a subordinate and a superior. However, Supervisor Liz would wear a sleeping bag. Akatsu couldn't do anything. That night, Akatsu ended up having insomnia because he heard Liz talking away. The next day on the holiday, Liz wanted to see Akatsu invite someone to join his organization. But many of them refused. Therefore, Akatsu would change his method for several reasons. Unexpectedly, the plan succeeded. He managed to get one girl. Liz mentioned that was what was called a tactic. As time went on, Akatsu became more and more trained. But he actually got the wrong target. He instead met Yuka. Akatsu was asked to drink tea with her. Yuka didn't refuse the invitation. However, when Akatsu was confused about running out of topics, Supervisor Liz was confused too. She even read the right dating guide to help Akatsu. Yuka then asked Akatsu about Amain. Suddenly, Liz asked who Amain was. Yuka knew that Akatsu was often with him. Moreover, Amain was a very cute girl. Akatsu imagined Amain posing cutely and greeting him. Akatsu felt embarrassed. Therefore, Yuka offered herself to help Akatsu's romance. Then Yuka told Akatsu not to hesitate to ask her about Amain because the two of them were good friends now. Supervisor Liz then told Akatsu to take her for a walk together at night. But Akatsu refused because it would feel strange for him to walk a girl at night. However, for the sake of his report, Akatsu reasoned to take Yuka home. But they both ended up being awkward with each other. Yuka finally said goodbye and thanked Akatsu for accompanying her today. Supervisor Liz came and hoped that Akatsu was happy with his current life. She wanted Akatsu to find their leader immediately. But something strange happened. When Amain woke up, she sneezed. She accidentally activated her love magic, which made Akatsu immediately make out with a bartender in the cafe. Akatsu then told Liz to forget about the incident. Then Liz said goodbye to go home, and finally Akatsu's burden was gone. However, Akatsu became even more enthusiastic because Amain's appearance made him even more eager to conquer the angel. Amain was seen praising herself as very beautiful, which probably made Akatsu crazy about her. But 1 hour later, Amain was afraid because she saw Akatsu, who was sitting beside her sparkling. Amain recalled the past events. Suddenly, Akatsu touched Amain's face. When Amain saw Akatsu's handsome face, she became nervous. Amain understood that Akatsu was provoking her. It turned out that Amain had a tool to threaten Akatsu, her magic ring. However, Akatsu ignored her and made Amain immediately annoyed with her. During the school break, Amain tried to strike back by greeting Akatsu using a teasing tone so that a fight between the two of them began. The fight was likened to a cat fighting a dog. However, Amain's attack did not succeed in paralyzing Akatsu, so Amain immediately left in embarrassment. Amain would find another way, but she was surprised because Akatsu was acting differently from usual. When Amain was thinking about whether she was not beautiful enough, suddenly two men came and praised Amain's cuteness, so Amain became confident again. Therefore, in the second round, Amain started her battle by raising her hair. This made the men immediately fascinated. However, it was different from Akatsu because his reaction was so normal. Amain's blow this time was avoided by Akatsu. On the other hand, this attack made Kensu feel embarrassedly in love. Amain was confused as to why Akatsu's reaction was so ordinary. Suddenly, Akatsu launched his attack by telling Amain to tie her hair in ponytail style. When Amain did that, she was very cute. Akatsu was amazed. This made Amain awkward and nervous. Amain tried not to fall into Akatsu's trap again. Then Amain followed Akatsu and used her finishing move by pretending to fall down the stairs. If it could be compared to Amain's fight, she used an undetectable punch. But unexpectedly, Akatsu managed to capture Amain in a romantic style. This also became a backfire for Amain. Plus, Akatsu was worried about Amain's cute face, which would hurt later. Amain blushed embarrassedly. Amain was successfully counterattacked by Akatsu, which almost made her KO. This was all Akatsu's plan so as not to fall into Amain's trap. Then it was shown that Akatsu was carrying Amain to have her wounds checked. It turned out that Akatsu had been trying to learn from supervisor Liz not to be tempted by women. Now Liz's job was to help her subordinates by disguising themselves as various things, from insurance administrators and medical room officers to even students at school. Not long after, Amain came and told him that she was fine. When Akatsu drank, Amain gave a signal that she also wanted to drink, so Akatsu intended to buy her a drink. However, Amain did not want to because she wanted to drink Akatsu's drink. With embarrassment, Amain would do that as they would share an indirect kiss from the same drink. Because of this statement, Akatsu was almost hit by Amain's attack. However, when Amain thought about it, it was truly embarrassing. So that made Amain even more embarrassed. The atmosphere instead became awkward. However, Amain realized that this was Akatsu's plan so that she would not be caught in Akatsu's trap again. Amain didn't want to drink Akatsu's drink and would buy it herself. But because she did not want her angel level to drop, Amain used her attack by dropping water on her clothes. With her cute face, Amain hoped Akatsu would be embarrassed. However, Amain initially thought that Akatsu had been hit by her attack. However, Akatsu counterattacked by giving her a jacket so that Amain would not catch a cold and get cold. Once again, Akatsu succeeded in turning the situation around. Finally, in class, Amain couldn't help but be embarrassed. Then Amain asked Yuka how to break the boy's defense. Yuka told Amain something. So when she came home from school, Amain canceled their demon hunting mission. Amain changed her mind, so Akatsu became suspicious. Amain brought a lot of cooking ingredients. All of this aimed to reward Akatsu for his hard work. But Akatsu would defend with all his might from Amain's next attack. However, when he arrived at the apartment, Akatsu immediately became insecure because his apartment was nothing compared to Amain's apartment. Then while inside, Akatsu saw Amain only wearing an apron. This made one of Akatsu's bodies tense. Now their fight began. Not long after, Amain returned while bringing food for Akatsu, which made Akatsu astonished. Akatsu initially doubted Amain's food. Even though it looked good, it might not taste good. But when he tried it, it tasted really good. Much better than the dish itself. However, it was not the main dish, Amain said, because she was still cooking pasta and other things. Akatsu asked her why she liked eating pasta. Amain answered that in just one day, Amain ate 2 pieces of pasta. Akatsu warned Amain not to eat pasta too often because it was not good for health. Then Akatsu revealed that he usually ate peppers. Amain grinned to herself seeing Akatsu eating the peppers until Amain couldn't stop laughing. So the fight between cats and dogs was over this time. Then Akatsu and Amain wanted to watch a film. Initially, Amain recommended a film that she had not seen. But Akatsu wanted to watch another film. However, Amain rejected this because the film had lots of insects. Finally, Akatsu knew that Amain was afraid of insects. In the end, they watched a romantic film. It looked like Amain was very serious and immersed in the film. However, in the film, people were kissing, which made one part of Akatsu's body immediately tense. Akatsu then glanced at Amain, who looked very sexy when she was focused on watching a movie. The two of them even accidentally looked at each other, so the atmosphere became awkward. However, when Amain was about to take a drink, Amain was dazed and almost fell. But fortunately, Akatsu immediately caught her. However, because of this incident, a very romantic scene occurred. So they were both trapped in this situation. Then Akatsu started doing something to Amain, and Amain got carried away. However, when he was about to do that, suddenly the phone rang. It turned out to be Amain's alarm. Amain immediately misbehaved when she remembered the incident. Because it was late, Akatsu was allowed to go home first. Then after making the report, Amain felt that her heart would not stop beating. She wanted to continue the romantic incident earlier. They both ended up having an attraction to each other. They both realized that this was what was called love. Because of what happened last night, Amain was really sleepy today because Amain could not sleep. Even Akatsu felt the same way. However, Amain was no longer strong enough to continue her life, so Amain immediately collapsed on her chair. Amain entered her dream. But in her dream, she actually met Akatsu. Suddenly, Amain became embarrassed when she saw Akatsu's seductive face. Amain wondered why Akatsu appeared in her dream. That might be a sign that Amain was falling in love with Akatsu. Amain was surprised why it ended like this. Initially, Amain intended to wake up, but this was her chance to conquer Akatsu by playing games. But suddenly, Akatsu only showed his head while eating ice cream. This actually scared Amain, so Amain immediately pressed carelessly. Suddenly, the screen broke. Meanwhile, Akatsu became curious about Amain's sleeping face. But when he looked at his face, it was so scary. Meanwhile, in the dream, even though Amain had tried many times to win Akatsu's heart in the game, she still had not succeeded. Plus, they were going on a date. Suddenly, Amain grinned to herself, imagining that this could happen in the real world. In the game, Amain saw Akatsu whose body was floating while spinning. Amain thought that the game was broken. Meanwhile, Akatsu intended to wake Amain, but it looked like Amain was having a sweet dream because she kind of shook her body. In the dream, Amain and Akatsu were dating. Even though she was in his own dream, Amain was confused. Her heart was pounding fast. Plus, Akatsu looked very charming. Amain was embarrassed too. However, suddenly someone attacked Akatsu. So there was a dramatic atmosphere between the two of them. Then Akatsu told Amain not to be sad because he would always be by her side. Akatsu saw Amain sleeping like someone having a seizure, finally woke Amain up. Therefore, he took Amain to the health room. Not long afterward, Akatsu came to tell her that Kensuke was very worried about her. Amain immediately hid, thinking that Akatsu would tease him again. However, Amain imagined a romantic incident with Akatsu. Amain was confused as to why she was thinking such things. Therefore, Amain immediately locked Akatsu. Amain was afraid he would do something strange to her. Amain did that to Akatsu because she thought that Akatsu would do something to her while she was sleeping. Apart from that, the main purpose of coming here was for Akatsu to remove the tattoo on his neck. But Amain refused because she could not possibly remove the necklace without reason. But Akatsu revealed that because of the necklace, he couldn't go to the hot spring, so he couldn't see the girls bathing. Then Akatsu said that he had been a bad person since coming to this world. However, after meeting various types of people, Akatsu understood that doing well to someone was very enjoyable. Therefore, Akatsu tried to work hard and enjoy his life. Amain was touched. Akatsu initially thought that Amain would tease him. But on the contrary, Amain could understand what was in his heart, so Amain was willing to grant Akatsu's request to go to the hot springs. But there was one condition that Akatsu had to do by changing his structure. Amain started to unlock her magic, but suddenly someone came out who was a duplicate of Amain. Therefore, Amain's duplicate immediately attacked Akatsu. However, Akatsu managed to avoid the attack. That body was Amain's prime body, Lilia Amain, which was very difficult to fight against. Amain aimed to put Lilia into Akatsu's neck in case Akatsu did something strange. So if that happened, Lilia would be the one to fight Akatsu. But suddenly Lilia attacked her own master, so this was an oddity that made Amain confused. Not long after, Shiramura-sensei came. He was angry because it was time to go home. However, he immediately fainted when he saw Lilia attacking him. Luckily, Akatsu was on time and managed to repel the attack. The two of them managed to work well together. Then, Amain told Akatsu to take Shiramura-sensei somewhere else. Amain would take care of Lilia. But before that, Shiramura-sensei said goodbye to Akatsu because he felt that he was almost dead. After all, he was attacked by a mysterious woman who could fly. However, because it was taking too long, Amain dragged Shiramura-sensei to the next room. To minimize the amount of damage and also be able to fight freely, Amain would move to the field. Therefore, Amain would open the barrier so she could face Lilia. Akatsu and Amain worked together to defeat Lilia. Even though Amain locked Lilia several times, Lilia still managed to escape, resulting in a great battle between Akatsu and Amain against Lilia. But Amain realized that Lilia was being controlled by an evil spirit. Thus, Amain thought hard. Akatsu, who was beside her, was successfully knocked back. Seeing Akatsu being thrown, Amain was unconscious and almost hit by an attack from Lilia. But fortunately, Akatsu managed to block the attack using his demon hand. Then Amain told Akatsu to distract Lilia because she had an idea. She knew Lilia was being controlled by evil people. Therefore, Akatsu complied with Amain's request. Amain would remove the magic on Lilia's back. Finally, Amain succeeded in taking back Lilia. However, because she had released a lot of power, Amain felt weak and she immediately fainted. On the other hand, there was a mysterious person controlling Lilia. The woman told her sister to carry out the next mission. That evening, Akatsu managed to take Amain to her apartment. Akatsu, who saw Amain's beautiful body lying limp, almost did something indecent. However, when Akatsu was about to go home, Amain suddenly grabbed him, so Akatsu intended to wait for Amain until she woke up. After the two of them defeated Lilia, Akatsu took Amain home because Amain was too tired that she fainted. Even though Akatsu was initially tempted by Amain's body, with strong faith, Akatsu managed to restrain his lust so that Akatsu intended to go home first. Suddenly, Amain grabbed his trousers and told him not to leave. Suddenly, this shocked Akatsu half to death. This was the same as Amain telling Akatsu to stay the night here. But without any strange thoughts, Akatsu was willing to accompany Amain after seeing Amain's hard struggle. Akatsu sat down while thinking about today's strange events. However, when he thought, Akatsu realized why he was helping Amain. They should be enemies because it was impossible for an angel and a demon to fall in love. Even so, Akatsu did not want to see Amain die in front of him. Suddenly, Akatsu's twin came. Akatsu's twin told the reason why Akatsu saved Amain. He did all that because he loved Amain. Suddenly, Akatsu felt embarrassed. He denied that he had any feelings for Amain, even though they both actually fell in love with each other. This was proven by Amain not allowing Akatsu to leave her side. Because of this, Akatsu realized that Amain also had the same feelings for him. Amain suddenly twitched, but what appeared instead was Shiramura-sensei. Akatsu was beaten by Shiramura-sensei, but luckily it was all just a dream. In the morning, Amain woke up from her fainting state, but she still didn't realize that Akatsu was still in her room. When she finished leaving the bathroom, she saw Akatsu, who was having a nightmare because he was being beaten by Shiramura-sensei. Amain was shocked because she remembered about herself last night who did not allow Akatsu to leave. Therefore, Amain intended to erase Akatsu's memory, but when she saw the wound on Akatsu's right hand, which was caused by protecting her, Amain gave up her intention. So Amain immediately treated the wound. Plus, Amain wondered why Akatsu even helped her because Akatsu could have abandoned her at that time. However, Amain expressed her thanks to Akatsu. She remembered her promise the last time when Akatsu completed his task. Amain had to give him a hug. Akatsu suddenly became delirious and wanted to be hit too. This shocked Amain. How could he possibly do that right now? But a promise was a promise, so Amain steeled himself. This was the only time she gave the gift. Then we were shown Akatsu's dream of being taught by Shiramura-sensei how to attract girls. Akatsu's dream was brought into the real world, so he quickly said, "Hug me." Amain was surprised whether Akatsu had woken up. However, Amain had the idea to sit between Akatsu's legs. It was the same as hugging Akatsu. However, when she did that, Amain immediately salted herself. Suddenly, Akatsu immediately hugged her. However, when Amain was about to let go of Akatsu's hand, Amain felt that Akatsu's hand was shaking. Maybe it was because of the fight earlier. Therefore, Akatsu was probably having a bad dream. When embraced, Amain felt that this world was very comfortable. After keeping her promise, Amain intended to remove the color of the tattoo on Akatsu's neck. This was also a special gift from Amain to Akatsu. However, when she saw the window, Amain was mad because Akatsu broke the window and said that he did not have the money to replace the glass. However, Amain imagined that when she fainted earlier, Akatsu must have carried her. That thought made Amain feel embarrassed. The next day, Akatsu woke up and saw that his hands and his whole injured body were bandaged. After that, Akatsu headed to the kitchen. Not long after, Amain woke up and saw Akatsu making hot chocolate and breakfast for them. This situation made them like husband and wife. After that, they ate together. But when Amain saw Akatsu having difficulty eating, she was willing to feed him. After that, they went to school. But Akatsu intended to skip class because he hadn't showered yet. But Amain forbade it. She explained that if she died yesterday, then Akatsu would automatically die too because his necklace would explode. Akatsu was shocked beyond belief. Turned out she was just joking. Amain revealed that she had changed the color of his tattoo when Akatsu was asleep. Akatsu was very happy. However, when Akatsu was suddenly happy, Kensuke and Yuka saw their affection in the morning. The story returned to the night Akatsu dreamed of hugging Amain. It turned out that in his dream he was hugging Shiramura-sensei. Because of this incident, when he left for school, Akatsu immediately approached Amain, who was on the school roof. Rumors about Amain and Akatsu had spread because Yuka and Kensuke were the ones spreading the gossip to their friends. So when Amain entered the classroom, she saw extremely sharp gazes like demons waiting for her from everyone there. But Amain intended to spend today normally. However, in reality, Amain was immediately bombarded with questions from her friends about her rumors and Akatsu. Therefore, Amain was on the school roof because she was not strong enough to face it all. This was all caused by Kensu because he was blindly jealous when he saw Akatsu coming out of the apartment with Amain. Therefore, the rumors had spread everywhere, so the two of them had to find a solution. At first, Akatsu didn't really care because it didn't affect his work. But he thought about it seriously. These rumors must have had an influence too, because then the girls would stay away from him. So with a shaking body, Akatsu invited Amain to work together to dispel the rumors. Amain first had to answer all the questions from her friends. When the time almost came, she was allowed to go to the toilet. But when they were leaving the classroom, Akatsu and Amain ran into each other. They immediately greeted each other as usual, so it surprised her friends because their relationship was the same as usual. There was no close relationship like a lover. The conversation between the two of them was too stiff, which made her friends suspicious. But suddenly, there was someone named Koyamatsu. Koyamatsu stated that Akatsu was not pretending because when a couple was involved in a scandal, they both kept their distance from each other. But it was different from Akatsu and Amain because they looked ordinary. So they would carry out further investigations to find the truth. This was all Amain's plan to trick them all. Akatsu was quite surprised that angels were crueler than demons. However, over time, Akatsu couldn't stand the rumors from his friends. So Akatsu immediately collapsed. Then Akatsu carried out several plans, starting from acting cool and teasing girls so that he would be seen as single. Not long after, he was approached by Yuya and Kensuke, who looked like they were desperate. During breaks, the five of them ate together. But for some reason, Yuka invited them to eat together, which made Amain and Akatsu suspicious. Therefore, Amain and Akatsu had to be careful about Yuka's traps later. Their guess was correct. Suddenly, Yuka fed Amain, and for some reason, Amain accepted it. Then Yuka told Amain to take her turn by feeding Akatsu. However, when Amain refused, Yuka suddenly wanted to feed Akatsu while teasing him too, which shocked them all. This was all Koyamatsu's plan to detect whether Amain was in love with Akatsu by making Amain jealous. Therefore, Yuka did this to test Amain. But Akatsu acted normal, which made Yuka confused as to why Akatsu did not hesitate to accept the food. Amain felt very annoyed. So Yuka, who realized this, would carry out a second plan by inviting Akatsu to go on a date together on the weekend. Suddenly, this made them all very surprised. Long story short, on the weekend, Akatsu and Yuka went out together. However, Amain, Yuya, and Kensuke spied on the two of them from a distance. Akatsu was actually happy because he got the chance to go out with a girl other than Amain. On the other hand, Kensuke was not jealous because he was actually very happy to be dating Amain. However, Yuya was shocked because it turned out that Yuka, who he thought was in love with Kensuke, was actually having fun with Akatsu. That statement also made Amain immediately hit by reality. Plus, the two of them were like a very romantic couple. Then they continued to other places. Spying on the two of them made Amain's chest feel tight, even though this was her own plan. However, Yuya said goodbye first because he had urgent business. So Kensuke and Amain were left alone. Not long after, Kensuke was allowed to go to the toilet, so Amain was left alone. While daydreaming, Amain thought about her feelings, whether she really fell in love with Akatsu or not. Suddenly, Akatsu and Yuka approached her place, so Amain immediately hid behind the bushes. But because of this, Amain ended up falling into the gutter. Amain heard that Yuka asked questions about Akatsu's relationship with Amain. Akatsu said that Amain was very cute, which made Amain grin to himself. When Yuka asked again what Akatsu liked about Amain, Akatsu answered that maybe it was from Amain's strong stance, working hard, being kind, and also extremely cute and pretty. So Yuka understood that Akatsu always cared about Amain. Meanwhile, Amain, who was behind him, could only grin to herself because she was embarrassed to be praised by Akatsu. Then Yuka asked again whether Akatsu intended to date Amain because the two of them were suitable for each other. But Akatsu stated that it was impossible because getting Amain was very difficult. After all, Akatsu already had someone in his heart. Akatsu answered like that because they were angels and demons, so it was impossible for them to be together. But suddenly, they both heard the sound of water splashing and were followed by Kensuke cooking carrying 2 drinks. Yuka was suspicious of Kensuke because he brought 2 drinks, so he asked Kensuke why he was there. However, when Yuka found out that Kensuke was with Amain, Yuka was so angry that she hit Kensuke on the head. After that, Yuka said goodbye to Akatsu and went home with Kensuke. Akatsu was left alone, but he thought maybe the sound of the water splashing was Amain. But when he checked, there was no one there. That night, due to soaking in the water for too long, Amain immediately caught a fever. But because her fever was too high, she accidentally activated Lilia. At school the next day, Akatsu was surprised to see Lilia come to class. However, Kensuke and Yuya actually had a crush on Lilia. Then Lilia introduced herself. The male students in the class were immediately excited to see such a beautiful girl. But they wanted to know whether Lilia was related to Amain or maybe she was Amain's older sister. They were also curious about why Lilia was there. Lilia said that she was there as a class representative because Amain was currently sick. In Lilia's world, rules like that were commonplace, even though it was different in the human world. So Amain had to try to negotiate with Shiramura-sensei. However, because of the trauma of what happened at that time, Shiramura-sensei immediately allowed her for today only. Lilia told Akatsu to be nice to her sister. The reason she was able to get out of Amain's body was because Amain was currently sick. During class, it looked like Lilia had a grudge against Akatsu. Akatsu looked down a little. His life could be lost. However, when outside, Lilia behaved so well that Kensuke and Yuya were fascinated when they looked at her. As expected, Lilia targeted Akatsu like she had a personal grudge against him. After all that happened, Akatsu met Lilia privately. During the meeting, Lilia wanted to apologize for the incident when she attacked Akatsu and Amain in the past. Because at that time, Lilia didn't know what she had done to the two of them. But Akatsu had forgiven her since that time. Then Lilia revealed that Akatsu was a strange demon. However, Akatsu also revealed that Lilia was also a strange angel because she was willing to apologize in front of her master's enemies. Lilia and Amain's similarities were due to their bodies being in the same place, so that it affected their respective consciousness. Lilia's goal in getting out of Amain's body was because she wanted to know about the outside world, especially at school. Because when she was in Amain's body, Lilia felt joy and happiness. Amain has changed since Akatsu's arrival. When she was in heaven, Amain was often gloomy, so the most beautiful place for Amain was in this world. The reason Lilia attacked Akatsu earlier during class and also while playing volleyball was because Akatsu had made Amain fall ill. Suddenly, Akatsu was confused himself. Akatsu was insensitive and didn't know where he went wrong. Lilia was honest that Amain liked Akatsu. However, Akatsu ended up dating another girl. That was what made Amain sick. Their conversation was overheard by Yuka as she couldn't hold back her curiosity. Then Yuka invited the two of them to visit Amain, so later they headed to Amain's apartment. However, it seemed that Lilia wanted to leave, but Akatsu held her back because he didn't want to be scolded by Amain alone. Apart from that, Akatsu also wanted to see Lilia get scolded by Amain for coming to school without her permission. When they entered, Amain was surprised to see Lilia already outside of her body. Moreover, when they got together, Lilia actually made things worse by telling all the disgrace about Amain. This made Amain even more embarrassed about herself. That was why Amain immediately told Lilia to buy soap. Inevitably, Amain would do something to her. After that, Amain was permitted to make iced tea first. But Yuka told Akatsu to check on Amain, who was sick. When she finished making tea, Amain almost collapsed. But fortunately, Akatsu came at the right time. However, Amain was still angry about the incident in the past when Akatsu was dating Yuka. However, due to pushing herself too hard, Amain finally fainted. Then after waking up from fainting, Yuka said that Akatsu had carried Amain to her room. Yuka apologized for being insensitive to her sick friend. Yuka then said goodbye and go home first. Meanwhile, Akatsu and Lilia would take care of Amain. However, before leaving, Yuka revealed to Amain that Akatsu was a good person. After Yuka left, only Akatsu and Amain were left alone. Akatsu was confused and instead thought of strange things. He only realized that on his date with Yuka yesterday, Amain was actually behind him. Then suddenly, Akatsu heard Amain's voice calling him. Akatsu approached her to check on her. It turned out Amain was having a nightmare with Akatsu. When Amain woke up, she immediately felt embarrassed because she was already holding Akatsu's hand. Suddenly, Akatsu checked Amain's body temperature, which made Amain even nervous. After Akatsu checked Amain's body temperature, Akatsu realized that Amain's fever was starting to go down. But Akatsu still couldn't leave Amain because he had to wait for Lilia to come home first. Then Akatsu told her about the incident at school where Lilia prided herself on being a kind and friendly person like Amain. Akatsu stated that if all angels were like Amain, maybe it wouldn't have to fight like this. Amain also revealed that Akatsu was different from other demons. They had to feel calm because as long as Amain was sick, their truce would be postponed. However, when Akatsu was about to return to the living room, Amain begged him to stay there so she wouldn't have nightmares again. So Amain wanted to sleep while holding Akatsu's hand. However, because Amain was so cute today, Akatsu couldn't refuse the offer. So romantic things happened between the two of them. But it all failed because Lilia came, so they were both shocked. Lilia revealed that a few minutes ago her chest felt warm, perhaps because of Amain's body. In other words, Amain felt warmth from Akatsu. After Amain recovered from her illness, as usual, the two of them hunted demons together. However, unexpectedly, they met someone who turned out to be a witch at that time, the person who took over Lilia's body. Now she told her sister to check on Amain. On the other hand, Amain and Akatsu met a man. What was surprising was that Amain called the man a big brother. In other words, the man was an angel. So it made Akatsu break out in a cold sweat, but Amain explained that Akatsu was just her classmate, so that her brother wouldn't be suspicious of Akatsu. Amain's brother was called Zwei. From a glance, Zwei was a very good person, but it turned out it was all just a cover. Amain was forced to leave Akatsu alone due to family matters. But it could be seen from the look on Amain's face that it was very blank. Maybe something was happening that was being covered up. After that, Akatsu was grateful to be safe from Zwei. However, Akatsu was surprised and worried about Amain because she looked gloomy and terrified. However, what Akatsu thought was maybe like a younger sibling who liked her older sibling. But Akatsu doubted that. Akatsu then intended to ensure this. On the other hand, Amain was seen bowing down to Zwei. The reason Zwei came to the human world was to check whether Amain had done her job properly or not. Even though at first his face seemed very kind and friendly, everything went wrong very easily. It turned out that Zwei was a very brutal person. Zwei then asked how Amain got Lilia out yesterday, because Amain couldn't defeat her alone. But Amain couldn't possibly be honest about Akatsu. That was why Amain lied that she tried it herself and even got hurt. Sue also asked why Amain only executed animal-shaped demons. It was impossible for Amain not to encounter a human-shaped demon. Sue suspected that Amain was up to something, but Amain reasoned that human demons had common sense. That was what made Amain difficult to conquer them. It could be seen that in her previous life, Amain was very tormented by her two older siblings. Lilia, who always monitored Amain, suspected that Zwei was planning a revenge mission. It turned out that Lilia would give Amain a trap where when Amain was in trouble or attacked something, Lilia would appear. So Sui realized that Amain was lying to him and asked if she was with a demon. Sui asked who the demon was. Meanwhile, Akatsu, who was monitoring the incident, almost jumped there. He was surprised to see her older brother treating his younger sister like that. Akatsu then called Liz to tell her that he had met a dangerous angel. Akatsu wasn't sure he could defeat him alone. He also could not bear to see Amain tormented. That was why after Akatsu reported to Liz and asked for reinforcements, Akatsu planned to go as far as possible. But in the end, Akatsu came back because he wasn't that weak. He approached Zwei and saved Amain. After Zwei found out that Akatsu was a demon, he immediately attacked him very brutally. That was why Akatsu could only defend against Zwei's attacks. Amain was angry with Akatsu why he destroyed all her plans. If Akatsu held back a little more, then they would all survive. But it couldn't be helped because Akatsu's body moved on its own because of his love for Amain. Moreover, Akatsu could not bear to see Amain crying. That was why Akatsu's task was only to defeat Zwei, which also seemed impossible. Akatsu accepted Zwei's challenge. If Akatsu succeeded in attacking him, then Zwei would pretend not to see anything that happened today. But when Akatsu attacked Zwei, he instead released his prime body in the form of several beautiful girls. Because of that, Akatsu couldn't move. Zwei's 4 prime bodies restrained Akatsu's body. Then Zwei told Amain to show her true identity. Zwei revealed that Amain's body was actually not that beautiful. In heaven, Amain was a lowly creature, and it could be seen that Amain was hiding her true body with an elastic body. But Akatsu could not accept Amain being humiliated like that. Zwei revealed that Amain could not be called an angel because she did not have wings. But Akatsu insisted that Amain had wings. Zwei told Amain to show her wings. When Amain took out her wings, Zwei cut off her wings, so it was revealed that the wings were just artificial. Zwei then showed real angel wings. Zwei had destroyed Amain's self-esteem and also insulted Amain. This made Akatsu angry and unable to accept this action. Akatsu suddenly changed. On the other hand, Liz was worried about Akatsu because she received news that Akatsu met a dangerous angel. Liz wanted to send reinforcements to help Akatsu. But Akatsu ended their conversation because he had been discovered, so Akatsu was forced to fight the angel. Suddenly, there was a sound of bones breaking. It turned out that one of Zwei's prime bodies was blown away until her hand broke. The other girls also couldn't block Akatsu, so they were immediately killed by Akatsu. Even though Zwei tried to attack Akatsu, Akatsu managed to block him. He saw Akatsu's wings growing, which was impossible because a demon couldn't possibly have wings. Suddenly, Akatsu hit Zwei until Zwei flew very far. Amain and Zwei were amazed to see Akatsu who had wings. This was all because Akatsu was carried away by his emotions and became a complete devil. Akatsu was unconscious and his body was being controlled by his demonic nature. Then Akatsu started giving Zwei several punches until Zwei couldn't move. It turned out that Akatsu was a dangerous demon. Flashback to the past where Zwei once saw Amain being hurt. But somehow he couldn't get angry like Akatsu. Zwei's death was in sight. However, Amain immediately blocked Akatsu's attack, which made Akatsu immediately cancel his blow. Amain tried to wake Akatsu up and said that if Akatsu killed her brother, heaven would definitely target him. Amain also explained that although her brother was strict with her, Zwei never physically harmed her. However, when Amain told Akatsu to stop, Akatsu suddenly attacked her. He reasoned that Amain was blocking his attack. However, Amain noticed something: Akatsu's wings had decreased by 1 because previously there were 6 and now there were only 5. Therefore, Zwei and Amain would not kill Akatsu, would revive him. They both had the suspicion that wings were what made Akatsu turn into a devil. Zwei would handle the 4 wings and Amain would take care of the rest. So there was a great battle between Zwei and Akatsu. With the wings that Zwei had, he managed to remove Akatsu's 4 wings so that Akatsu's consciousness began to return. Then Amain started to react to remove the 2 wings. Finally, Amain managed to remove the last 2 wings. Amain did this because Akatsu was someone who always accompanied her even though he was annoying and a bit strange. But Amain somehow really loved Akatsu. Fortunately, both of their efforts were successful in bringing Akatsu to his senses. This time, Akatsu would let Zwei go. But if he returned to his presence or met Amain, Akatsu would not hesitate to finish him off more than this. But before leaving, Akatsu thanks Zwei for making him back to his senses. When Akatsu arrived at the apartment, he had to immediately take off Amane's dirty clothes, otherwise Amane would catch a cold. But he was embarrassed himself. However, there was no other way to change Amane's clothes, so there was a debate between angels and demons to instigate Akatsu. Luckily, Lilia came, so she was the one who changed Amane's clothes. After changing Amane's clothes, Lilia wanted to have a private talk with Akatsu. They went straight to the top of the building. Akatsu saw Lilia's bruised hand. That was because during the match, Lilia tried to get out of Amane's body. However, because Amane was afraid that her brother would target Lilia too, Amane handcuffed Lilia. So because Lilia wanted to take off the handcuffs, her hands became bruised. Then Akatsu asked what happened to him because he was unconscious when he became a full demon. At that time, Akatsu was clueless even when attacking Amane. That was why Lilia revealed that Akatsu turned into the most terrifying demon among the other demons. He liked to oppress enemies, laugh at enemies, and finish off helpless enemies. It was all triggered because Akatsu did not accept Amane being bullied by Zwei, so it made his body suddenly move on its own. Even so, Lilia already knew Akatsu's reason, which was only to save Amane. Because of that, Akatsu knew that Amane had difficulty living in heaven because her family was very strict. So there Amane only felt threats from her own family. Amane worked hard to the death to upgrade herself so as not to be despised within her family. But that was all ruined because the only person who met Amane now was Zwei, but she won't see him again. However, Lilia instead thanked Akatsu because Amane's old place had disappeared. Now Akatsu had to be the last place for Amane to lean on. In other words, Amane was free from her family. Lilia was so grateful that she cried because she was finally free from her family's restraints, because all this time Lilia couldn't do anything. This incident could be said to be accidental because Akatsu only reflexively saved Amane because he saw Amane being tortured. When Lilia cried, Lilia told Akatsu to stroke her head. With a grin on his face, Akatsu stroked Lilia's head, but suddenly Lilia took a photo of them with an automatic camera as a threat if Akatsu didn't keep his promise to look after Amane. If Akatsu violated, then Lilia would tell this photo to Amane. Although Amane would also be angry with Lilia later. Even though her brain was a bit wonky, Akatsu was still grateful because Lilia was the only family who looked after Amane even though it was just a spare body. But suddenly Lilia pressed her breasts against Akatsu. Because he was afraid of being photographed again, Akatsu refused. Amane woke up from her stupor, but she was confused about where she was. Plus, she saw Akatsu brushing his teeth and washing his hair. Akatsu's face lit up with joy. Amane touched her body. Turned out she wasn't wearing underwear. Amane immediately threw the sword at Akatsu for daring to take her virginity. However, when Akatsu was about to explain the true incident, Amane was already blinded by anger. But luckily, Lilia came to explain that this was all her doing. So after knowing the fact, Amane felt ashamed of herself. After that, they drank coffee together. Amane asked Akatsu what happened after that incident. Akatsu said that nothing happened because he immediately told Zwei to leave. When Amane was about to ask about Akatsu's demon form, Akatsu was too lazy to explain anymore. However, Amane was confused as to why Akatsu had brought her to his apartment. Would there be indecent things done in the future? The reason Akatsu brought Amane to his apartment was just in case Zwei would send angels to Amane's house. When that happened, Amane would be in big trouble. Amane instead thought of using Akatsu to be forgiven by her family by telling them some of the demon's weaknesses. But Amane was confused and hesitant. After Akatsu tried to save her, did she have to betray him? Finally, Amane gave up her intention. By the time Akatsu was about to take Amane home, it was likely that the situation at home would be safe. However, Amane revealed that she wanted to stay there. That statement took Akatsu by surprise. Akatsu's house was small and only had one room. How come they both had to sleep in the same bed? Of course not, Amane said, because she would sleep on the bed but Akatsu would sleep on the floor. Amane immediately told Lilia to shop for lodging equipment. After shopping, Lilia said goodbye and told Akatsu to fulfill his promise to look after Amane. When it was just the two of them, the atmosphere became awkward. That while Amane was taking a shower, Akatsu tried to contact Liz, but unfortunately, Liz could not be contacted. Then they both got ready to sleep because tomorrow they had to go to school. But in the middle of the night, Amane woke up. She approached Akatsu to give him a gift for saving her today. Amane kissed Akatsu as a special gift she could give. She couldn't do anything more than this. After that, Amane immediately returned to her bed, embarrassed. The next day, because they slept too soundly, they were late for school. So Akatsu blamed Amane. Amane in the middle of the night might have done something strange to him. Amane was surprised that Akatsu knew. However, when Amane knew what he meant by things was to take the food from the refrigerator, Amane did not feel embarrassed. Then they ran into Yuka, Kensuke, and Yuya. Kensuke looked jealous, seeing the two of them walking together. But even so, friends were still friends. so the five of them went to school together. Because of this incident, Amain was very grateful to be able to meet Akatsu. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Zwei informed his sibling that Amain was doing her job well and correctly. He also didn't find any suspicious plans. Zwei had kept his promise to Akatsu. Amain was seen forgetting her ribbon at Akatsu's house. That was why Akatsu would take it during school break. After that, Amain met secretly with Akatsu so that no one in the class would be suspicious of the two of them. However, Amain instead saw Akatsu, who was being embraced by Liz. Amain was shocked to see that. This is the end of Oroka and Tenshi with Season 1. Thank you so much for staying in this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you updated with our latest contents. See you in the next video.